And good evening, good evening, good evening. I'm Richard the Razor Ewing. And if you're looking at my face at this time, that means you got your game face on. And tonight we got a real treat. We got Rivals.com's own Big Ben Parper on with us. Ben, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you so much for having me back. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Matt NoneTheWiser had some other festivities he had to attend to, so he's not going to be with us tonight. But as you know, before we get started, I always go to the questions. So if you're trying to figure out how to get those rose petal blooms to be a little bit more brighter, you're on the wrong podcast. And if you're trying to figure out how to blend that drink so that it's so spiked that it'll make you fall down, you're on the wrong podcast. But if you're trying to get insight into sports locally here in the Bay Area, you just put your game face on. And if you're trying to get insight on sports on a national level, once again, you put your game face on. I'm Richard the Razor Ewing. He's Big Ben Parper, and he's my host today, co-host today. Ben, now you recently were with Cal at Rivals.com, but you recently got promoted. Now you're covering Stanford.
Yeah, so I was doing Cal basketball before for Rivals.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that was running Stanford's Rivals site before, Jacob Rayburn, nicest guy, he reached out to me and said he was going a different direction and wanted to know if I was down to replace him and run the entire Stanford site. So the site is stanford.rivals.com, aka cardinalsportsreport.com. So I'm now a publisher of the site.
Nice.
So, now I'm not just covering basketball. I'm covering football, men's, women's basketball, the whole Megillah. So
right.
I'm very excited about kind of the chance to run my own site. And Stanford is an amazing school. It's an amazing place, as you know, and it's also a lot closer to my house.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's like the whole thing is a big upgrade for me. So I'm very excited about this opportunity.
Yeah, great. And it's funny because you were talking about Stanford and the 2020 women's NCAA title holders there now. Yeah, yes. Tara Vanderveer did a fantastic job, and she's always done a fantastic job. Been a big fan of hers for a long time. But yeah, you look at the history of Stanford, the Cardinal sports, an illustrious history. Many titles have come through that school. It's also the home of Tiger Woods. Just a lot of great athletes have come out of Stanford. Let's dig a little bit into yesterday's, not yesterday, but was it yesterday? Day before yesterday's game. They played against K-State, and unfortunately, it didn't come out on the winning side on that one. K-State kind of handed it to them. So you had, what was it, Skylar Thompson?
Yeah, that's their quarterback.
Yeah, he did a 13-yard TD run, and then I can't believe Deuce Vaughn had 124 yards on 13 carries.
Yeah,
Stanford's defense is not looking that good right now. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so my thoughts on the game were on the defense. Let's talk about the defense first, since you brought up the defense first. Then we can get into the offense. The defense got off to a sluggish start. Got down 14-0 pretty fast. And within a matter, first couple of K-State possessions, the Wildcats were just running all over the Cardinal.
Wow.
And we're kind of getting whatever they wanted. But the second half, Stanford's defense kind of settled in. I don't think K-State scored at all in the third quarter.
Okay.
And the only reason why I think they scored in the fourth, they scored 10 points in the fourth. I think that was the box score. It's just I think Stanford's defense got worn down. And their cornerback, Kaya Blue Kelly, got on Pro Football Focus's Team of the Week at corner, specifically at slot on defense. And he had a huge kind of highlight kind of play of the week. I think someone on our message board said it was also the PFF play of the week as well. He made an amazing kind of one-handed catch in the end zone there to prevent a K-State touchdown. So I think the defense kind of found its groove eventually. And Kyle Blue Kelly showed why he's one of the top cornerbacks in the Pac-12,
Right.
and the country for that matter. So to me, the larger story was on the offensive side of the ball, which I sent you my article on the quarterback situation,
Yes,
which is I think that was a bigger issue. But the defense, you're right. The defense initially looked really bad, looked out of sync, and that allowed K-State to get in front. I mean, the ones that kind of settled in, it was kind of too late, and the offense just wasn't ever there. So.
Yeah. So now, in your article, I read about Tanner McKee, and he seemed to be really the bright spot at quarterback. Now, is Mr. West? Or do you think they're going to just keep him in there, or do you think they might maneuver McKee to the starting spot?
Yeah, it's a tough call. Knowing David Shaw, a lot of people kind of seem to think that he's likely. I mean, the answer is like I have no idea. No one knows. No one can read David Shaw's mind. I know that a criticism of him has been that he's at times stuck with the older quarterback too long, and hasn't been more willing to give the keys to the younger quarterback sooner. And they got USC coming up next. So I honestly could easily see a scenario where it's just like Saturday again, where they play both quarterbacks back and forth and kind of continue their quote unquote quarterback competition into the USC game. But as I kind of said, if you just kind of look at, and I would say this, like that article has gotten like, I'm trying on the bit link. Bitly kind of tracks that's got over 300 hits, almost 400 hits on the links, on the clicks. Wow. So that got a lot of track. I was surprised that it got that much traction. A lot of people agreed with what I was saying. So I think most Stanford fans, all would hope to see Tanner McKee start on Saturday at USC because he's the younger guy. He's the higher rated prospect, and ultimately kind of is going to, at some point, be the franchise quarterback. But the question is like, when will that actually happen? Yeah. What happens Saturday? I don't know. That's kind of the big story for Stanford right now is what happens at quarterback. And I think it feels more like when will McKee be given the keys to the car versus if. He's going to be the starter at some point. But the question is, when is that going to happen?
The interesting thing about that too is you look at, that particular scenario, the way Shaw's handling it. It's kind of like the scenario you're seeing right now in the NFL, where you have a lot of quarterbacks that, for whatever reason, they may not be performing up to par, or it may be that, the new guy just is just a good fit. And that's been one of the discussions around the NFL up here in San Francisco, because you have the controversy of Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, which I never thought that Trey Lance was going to start. I never thought that, not once in my mind, because I felt like, he hasn't that much experience. They had the COVID season, and that kind of took away, a lot of what these players can do when you're dealing with live bullets, so to speak, right? When you're playing in a game, and it just seems to me that the NFL is different than college. Okay, there's no question about that. So that may actually work in David Shaw's favor. Okay, but in the NFL, it's different. Okay, because in the NFL, it's a much faster game. You got very, very high intensity skilled players, and these players, this is the cream of the cream. They're on. They're in the NFL now. When you're in the NFL, okay, that's what happens. Your cream, you're gonna make it there or you're not. That's it. So I just don't know if I just couldn't really see that in the NFL right now. I could see it probably more in college than in the NFL. So I wanted to also discuss, because San Jose State also played, and I couldn't believe it. Most of the teams up here, college teams up here, most of them lost. I couldn't believe it. San Jose State lost, so did Stanford. And matter of fact, when I looked, I think UCLA right now is unbeaten. They're 2-0. But when I look at the rest of the Pac-12, most of them they all lost games.
Yeah, well, especially the Pac-12 North. That was something that we were talking about a little bit was the Pac-12 North was just terrible. And almost all those teams lost. Only Oregon win against State. So, yeah, the North was terrible this game.
Well, it is that time again of the year, and all eyes are turned into football as teams are back on the gridiron to start the football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for the pro and college football action this season. Get all the updated odds, props, and contests, including online's biggest $500,000 mega contest. Wow, $500,000. The world's largest $200,000 NFL Survivor contest is now open at BetOnline. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 100% welcome bonus. Take advantage of their opening day super promo. Make a bet on the Thursday, September 9th season opener between the Super Bowl champion Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys. And if you lose, your wager will be refunded up to $25. For new customers only when signing up and using promo code NFL100. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. BetOnline, your online sports book experts. I personally let you know, hey, if that's something you think you can do, you think you got what it takes and you can win, go ahead, go to BetOnline. Now, me myself, I wouldn't try that. And the reason why I wouldn't try it is because I'll probably lose. Not to mention I got a wife, I got a wife I have to answer to. So but anyway, Ben.
Yeah, I'm here. So as I was trying to say before I think I cut off there, yeah, Pac-12 North as a whole looked just terrible this weekend. You had Cal losing to Nevada. Fans calling for that coach to be fired. Washington lost to Cal fans freaking out about Justin Wilcox right now. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Washington fans, same thing. Lost to Montana. Oregon State lost to Purdue.
Yeah.
And then Oregon barely beat Fresno State. So yeah, you're right that the Pac-12, particularly the North Division, was off this weekend. And so I do think for Stanford, that's something that, that's a little bit of a silver lining for them as they kind of look ahead of the season after Saturday's loss.
Yeah, and we all know as the season progresses on, it's really, it's not so much how you start, but really it's how you finish. And in the Pac-12, we've seen this movie before where, one of the teams doesn't start off well, but then towards the end of the season, they're actually playing better and they're actually a lot more hungrier, okay, because they start playing, and biting for the Pac-12 championship. So I don't hold anything against Stanford in this game. I think more than anything, it was a learning thing for them. We do have to admit also that, we had, the pandemic year, which that slowed everything down to a halt. So everybody's just trying to get, basically the wheels oiled, if you will. So that way the wheels can stop squeaking, they can actually turn. And I think that's what kind of happened in this game. And we'll see as the weeks progress on. But you were, when you were which you're still at rivals.com, when you were covering Cal, how many games were you covering? The entire season?
I was doing I was doing in regular year, I was doing about men and women's basketball. So I was doing anywhere between I was making 40 trips to Berkeley, just for games alone. Yeah. So it's gonna be nice to be making the switch to Stanford from that sense. But yeah, I was doing men and women's basketball, and that's something I'm gonna be doing at Stanford as well. So yeah, men's, women's basketball, football, the whole thing. So yeah, I was doing a lot, and I kind of got a good feel for, both the men's and women's basketball side, which was fun.
Right. I tell you something, Ben. A lot of the fans watching this, they probably don't notice, but I remember the first time I met you. I was on my way to the radio station because I had my own radio show up in the city, and I think you were on your way to cover a Cal game. I think that's where you're going. And
that's where I was going. Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, man, and I seen because you had the tag on. I said, well, man, this guy covers sports. I said, well, shoot, so do I. So, and lo and behold, now look at us. Now we're both sitting up here. Okay.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Yeah, it just goes to show that you don't necessarily have to have a huge backing to be doing what you love to do. You can just just do it. Just get out there and do it. And that's kind of what GameFace is all about. I wanted to talk about also. I'm sure you heard the Durant and Draymond Green all in the smoke podcast. Have you heard about that?
I heard there was some sort of feud with like Durant blocking him or something, or blocking his number, and them only communicating through Instagram. That's all I heard, but there was some sort of tension there.
Yeah. It got well, if you hear the podcast, all you gotta do is type in all the smoke, and then you can look at the podcast. But the podcast itself was just, in my opinion, it was something that probably just didn't really need to happen. It's almost like they were trying to, I guess, clear up some things that happened, because what happened with him, and and Durant and Draymond blew up at each other, and then Durant, next thing you know, Durant left. And so that whole thing, I don't know, it sounded like to me like Draymond was trying to clear the air or something, because which I thought, okay, this has already been over. Why are you guys even discussing this? It didn't make any sense.
Right.
But then the other thing that made it even worse was that Draymond just threw management under the bus. It was like, and I'm just like, okay, what possessed you to do that? I mean, in other words, I can't go and talk to my boss like that, or say something, underhanded about it. I go in that office, I'll be fired. You know what I mean? It's like, I just didn't get it. None of it made any sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say this about Draymond Green. He's a very passionate guy, and he's very outspoken, and has no problem saying what's on his mind, right? Yeah. Which I guess is a good thing in some respects. In other ways, it's not. I mean, obviously with Kevin Durant, the way things ended in Golden State weren't ideal for him. The way he got injured, and the way that he kind of felt pressure to play through the injury, which made things worse for him. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that, like, I don't know. And I think also too with Durant, I think there's a little bit of tension between, like, I think not just between like Durant and, I mean, I don't know the insides of all of it, but I'm not surprised there's at least some friction there, just because,
So your mic, Ben. So Ben, you're
right. And then after I think there was a little bit of a power struggle between like him and Draymond, like, no, it's me, Steph, and Clay direction, but I'm not. Yeah. So as I was saying, I'm not surprised that the tension is there, just because I'm not sure if I cut off here or not at this point, but I think there was a debate about, okay, who's more responsible for the dynasty, right? There was kind of the Clay, Steph, and Draymond team that won that first chip, right? And I think they kind of felt like maybe we didn't need Durant to come on, but management felt that they did. And then Durant comes on, they win 2 more. So I think there was just kind of a power struggle there between, okay, who's more responsible for this dynasty? And I think to a certain extent, Steph, Clay, and Dre were kind of on one side of that. And Kevin was kind of viewed as kind of the outside that was kind of coming in. And I think, to a certain extent, they didn't really feel like they needed him. And yet maybe they did. We'll never know what would have happened had they not brought him in. But a lot of egos at play, right? We're talking about guys that are, elite at their sports and champions, and You know, this kind of stuff happens. I mean, even you want to go back to the '90s with Jordan and Pippen. I mean, there was tension there too, right?
Right.
There was tension there between like Pippen and Jordan feeling like, or rather I say Pippen, feeling like, he didn't get his fair cut, his fair sort of share of the spotlight. So yeah, I mean, this history of players feuding and fighting for position and power struggle, it's been going on since the dawn of the NBA. It really has.
Yeah, and I agree with you about that when you talked about the ego situation, because I think that did play a lot of it. I think overall though, I've never, and maybe I'm kind of holding something against Durant, but I mean, I was never really happy with his decision to leave, and the reason why was because when the Warriors went to him, because they had beat him before when he was with OKC, okay, and when they went to him and said, "Hey, look, we'd like you to come and play with us. We think we can build something big here," and Durant, what was he getting out of it? He wanted a championship. That's what he wanted, because he couldn't get it in OKC. He'd been there 9 seasons and no dice. So he goes to Golden State. Golden State makes good on what they said, okay? He gets 2 chips. Now, had he stayed, it could have been much bigger, but I kind of felt like Durant kind of got what he wanted and then just said, well, you know what, I got my championships, I'm gone, and I felt like that part of him was something that was hard for me to accept, because he just helped me to realize who he really is. It was just like Draymond had said. It was about him. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what it was about. And if it wasn't about him, then forget it. And I'm just like, wow, okay. That's something, that's a take. I couldn't see that from him at first. But now when he left, I was like, oh, okay, now I see who you are. You want the spotlight. Go ahead.
I mean, I was going to say that, that's what he did in Brooklyn too. I mean, to a certain extent, it's a shame that, the guy that's kind of the exact opposite of Durant right now is Giannis Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee, right? Because he stayed in Milwaukee,
right,
and and won a championship for his city, and one championship. I mean, here's the thing too, is I think that what sort of plagued the NBA and a lot of these players is this thought of, I gotta win X amount of rings. One isn't enough. I've got to win 3, 4, 5, whatever.
Right.
They're kind of chasing Jordan's thing. But it's like Jordan did that with one team. He did it all in Chicago, and the team was built around the team that drafted him. And then 2, stop trying to compare yourself to Jordan. Stop trying to do your own thing. You know what I mean? And then I think the other thing too is I think LeBron James figured this out. Like, getting one championship in Cleveland was worth more than all the ones he got in Miami. Right. Kevin Durant gets one championship in Oklahoma City. That's worth more than like 3 It's like worth more than 4 in LA. I mean, it's like to win someplace where it's never been done, you get one. That's weighted. Yeah. And I don't think they understand that. And you say that Durant couldn't have won in OKC. I mean, he got close. He's up 3-1 and booted a series. Yeah. And then joins a team that he choked against. So I mean, maybe if he had stayed in OKC, he would have won one. But it's just a shame that I don't know. He's got his rings, and I guess that's good for him. But his legacy is not what it could have been, and he stayed in OKC. But
he's gonna. I tell you something. He went to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't get it done there, you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, yeah, that's the guy who won some titles with Golden State. That's what they're going to say. Exactly. I mean, because he didn't get one in OKC. He didn't get one last year in Brooklyn. He's going to try again next season. But, we got to be realistic. He's up in age. So is Kyrie Irving. So is James Harden. Okay, that's supposed to be the big 3 over there. Okay. But my whole deal is that, there's no pie in the sky that tells him, oh yeah, because you migrated to Brooklyn, all of a sudden you're going to get a championship. That does not mean that. It means you're going to have to work hard to get one and hope you can find somebody that can play with you a full season, because they've had Harden and Kyrie both got injured last season.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. I will say this much. You know, it's the same with Golden State though, because their championship door is closing. You know, they don't have a lot of time. Okay,
No,
because shoot, man, Steph's what, 35, and Klay's coming off of an injury, and Draymond is not the Draymond of old. Okay, and I wouldn't be surprised next season if Draymond gets injured. I wouldn't be surprised. Those guys are up in age now. The only two that could probably still put up some championship numbers is still Steph, because he's Steph. And if Klay comes back and if he looks like, because I saw, what was it, a video of him last week where he was practicing and he looked pretty good. I mean, he was running from side to side, catching the ball and shooting, and he hit 10 threes in a row.
Dang.
I was like, that looked like the Klay of old right there. That looked like, okay, you know what I mean? He looked good. I was impressed. But I said, but if he can keep that up for an entire season, then yeah, then they got a very, very good chance. So we are going to be wrapping up here. And we got Big Ben Parker from Rivals.com. First of all, Ben, glad to have you on. And we've had to, Ben has had to put his camera off because his signal's been so weak. And
it's bad here. It's a bad signal. Yeah. So it's when I do Zoom interviews first, my camera's always off because I can hear it, or they'll just drop off. So yeah. And all that is really just technical difficulties. And hey, man, let's keep it real. We're in a pandemic right now, so I'm sure we ain't the first ones that have. Oh no. This is life. This is life in 2020, 2021.
Exactly. Yeah. So and it's Labor Day, so maybe that might be the problem too. Maybe technology is saying, look, you know what, y'all get a day off, why can't I?
Exactly.
So anyway, once again, this is GameFace. We do this on Monday evenings at 7:30. I'm Richard Razor Ewing. He's Big Ben Parker, Rivals.com, newly acquired Stanford beat writer. And Ben, it's been a pleasure having you on with us, man. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me on. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Have a good evening.
You too.